Hey everyone, this is John with the Bass Tank. Here today talking about basic settings for Livescope. You know, I get asked all the time. I got asked this morning at the ramp, hey, you know, TVG on, noise reject on, what do I do? What do I do? Gain. And the answer is there's not just one answer. Every situation has a little bit different. So you got to learn a little bit about what the settings do for your environment and what you're fishing. You know, there are a couple basic things though. Based on updates, some of the settings change when Garmin does different updates. But right now, if you're trying to fight with the ghost tree, one of the biggest things that you need to do is go into your menu on your Livescope page, go to sonar setup, and you've got TVG and you got noise reject. Noise reject, I put noise reject on high. If I turn noise reject and I'll put it on low, you're gonna start seeing this filtered. See, it's unfiltered information coming in real fast. I turn it completely off. See how it's real fast and frizzly? So menu, sonar set, noise reject, high. Now when I do that, it dulls the screen. So the important part about knowing that when it dulls the screen, a lot of people, they put their gain really down there and they want this perfect black image. I don't like that black image because I'm not able to see my line, my jigs. I like to be able to see every little detail. I want to see the fish's fins. I want to see its gills, its eyes. I want to see when he breathes. So I like to turn my gain up, but gain itself is not the answer. Okay, very important. If you turn your noise reject on high and you're in less than, let's say 15 foot of water, your TVG, time varying gain, needs to be turned off. Needs to completely turn it off. You can turn it on low if you look a little bit deeper. As you can see, it clears things up a little bit more. And TVG allows you to look deeper into the water column. It's filtering out this top information up here in the top part of the water column. So, you know, anything deeper than 15, you can turn your TVG on. But for now, turn TVG off, noise reject high. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into appearance and you're gonna go to color gain. A lot of people's color gain is set on default. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that color gain and we're gonna increase it all the way. See how things are getting brighter? All the way up in that 83, 84 range. You can go all the way up higher if you want, but about that 83, 84 range. And what that does is allows those returns to be a lot brighter on the screen. It's not filtering information, it's just making things brighter as those returns come in. So once again, noise reject high, TVG off, go into your installation, into your appearance, color gain, 83%. You can back out everything. And then from there, you're gonna fine tune your gain how you like it for the day. If you wanna be able to see more detail, you can turn it all the way up. Right now where we're at on Kentucky Lake, 76 has been about where, you know, I prefer. So once again, if you're just starting out, you're having hard issues, one of the biggest things we say, how do I see my jigs? How do I see I can't see my jigs, I can't see my jigs. More important than anything, make sure that your noise reject's high, TVG off, color gain, turn it up to around 83, and then start messing with your gain. So let's talk about appearance on Livescope. You know, a lot of guys have their preferred appearance that they want. I've got 2 or 3 that I use under different circumstances. Here on Kentucky Lake, fishing a little bit deeper, and there's been a whole lot of fry. And that fry makes things a little bit difficult to see through. So I want a brighter return, and for me, that black emerald has been really the ticket. But for a lot of times, I'm using, you know, either a copper appearance or, you know, something in the orange category. So we got these 2 side by side. But it's a very simple thing to change if you're wanting to try it out. Just go into your menu, sonar setup, under appearances, you've got color scheme. So as you can see here, this one's on amber and this one's on black emerald. Open that up and I've got all these options here. There's what I call Lowrance blue. There's your amber. There's copper. Black emerald. So next time you're out on the water and you're having a little bit of hard time seeing what you want to see, you might just try to change your appearance and you'd be surprised how that will help. So I'm often asked, how deep do you set your Livescope range and how far out do you range? And it's not just a one setting. I'm going to tell you for a fact one thing that I do not set my range or my depth on auto. I don't let the computer tell me and dictate what I can see, what I can't see. The number one reason for this is that when I'm fishing with the Livescope, one of the biggest tools in the world to be able to diversify between fish sizes. And the only way that you're able to keep that in your mind and be conditioned to that fish size is by keeping the scale consistent throughout time. And you can compare. So if that scale is always changing, it's harder to see if it's a big fish or a smaller fish, or if I'm looking at a 1 pound crappie or a 1.5 pound crappie. So when I'm looking to change my distance and depth, here are the two places I do this. This right here is my range. I usually don't bring it in any closer than 25 feet. For most of the time, I fish at about a 35-foot distance when I'm actually fishing. When I'm searching for brush piles or waypoints or things of that nature, I'll range it all the way out to 70 feet. I've caught fish as far out as 100 feet throwing a jerkbait over suspended bass. So the detail goes away when you look at these distances. You can see it just becomes like a little vertical line. So as I range in, I'm going to start seeing that detail. And one of the reasons why I zoom real close in, especially in the wintertime when we got lethargic fish, is I want to know the difference between its head and its tail. Sometimes I want to the key is to put that jig just on his lips. And so that's why I kind of range in, get a little bit closer, and so I can see more details of the fish. Now let's talk about depth. One of the things about depth, most people run theirs on default is on auto, and the depth is jumping up and down. I'm going to set mine at about 2 to 3 foot deeper than either the bottom or the depth that I'm catching the fish in. For instance, here we got about 14.5 foot of water. So I'm going to go to depth range. I'm going to range it about 17 feet deep. That puts this bottom line just above all these buttons that I push, and I can still see this. That's the number one reason I do that. Now, the second reason that you may want to change the depth and not be able to see the bottom is, let's say you're fishing in 50 foot of water and you're fishing for suspended fish, and you find out that all the active fish that are biting are only down between 10 to 15 foot. So in that scenario, I don't want to see all the way down to 50 foot. So I'm going to range down to about 17 to maybe 15, 20 foot, depending on the scenario. But it's going to allow all the fish, there may be fish below what I'm seeing, but I don't care about the ones that I can't catch. I'm only looking for the ones that are feeding. And a lot of times suspended fish, that's going to be your detail between whether they'll bite or they won't. They'll be the highest ones in the water column. And so I'm able to use and control my depth range to be more efficient and maximize what I'm looking at. I'm often asked about, what settings do I use when the fish are on the bottom? I can't see the fish, they're on the bottom. And sometimes crappie get that way, bass get that way, but I'm going to tell you, walleye 100% get this way. They get on the bottom and they're hard to see. And there is a couple settings in Livescope that allows you an ability to separate the fish from the bottom. And there's two main features. One is their trails, but the one I want to talk to you about is the bottom fill feature. And so if I'm casting at a walleye and he's on the bottom, or casting at any fish, but I've really seen where this pays off for the walleye fisherman. The thing that I'm going to do, you notice this hard bottom line that you see Livescope has. Well, if that fish is really on the bottom, his return, it's just going to blend in. So the one thing that you do is you go to menu, sonar setup, appearance, and I'm going to hit the bottom fill option, and I'm going to hit it on. And as you can see, what it does is the processor starts filtering out the bottom. And there's a little bit of oddities that's there, but if a big fish was cruising around here on the bottom, that fish would glow and it should show up. And it allows you one extra tool to separate the fish from the bottom. So let's talk about trails. So there's two major reasons to use trails. One is when you've got suspended fish and you've got a small bait and you're trying to find your bait and you're using that trail to follow your bait. And the trail is just that. It's a heat trail, if you will, of your lure or fish or anything moving in the water. And you've got three different options. It can disappear fast, medium, or slow. And I usually try to let it disappear fast. I don't need it to stay up forever. But it works for another scenario, and that's when the fish are on the bottom. You're able to see a little bit of trail of that fish kind of moving on the bottom. Now, I'm going to show you how to get in there, but one reason not to use it is when you're brush pile fishing and there's a bunch of fish glowing in there. those trails will just overwhelm and you won't be able to drop directly on your fish. So this is really an isolated situation when you're trying to target individual fish. So we go into menu, sonar setup, appearance, trails, and I'll just hit medium at this time. See this bait fish here? You see this bait fish here and you'll see the trails of the bait fish. We got a guy swimming here. It just allows those things to stick out a little bit more. This is a tip you can use if you're having a hard time finding your lure or individual fish. So you've bought the new perspective mount, you're excited about the perspective mode, and you've updated your unit, you fire it on, you go into menu, and you don't see your perspective icon. That's because there is none. Do not look for your perspective icon here. Let me show you where you go to put your unit in perspective mode. Go to your Livescope screen first. You're gonna go into menu, sonar setup, installation. What you're gonna find is your orientation. Right now, we're in forward orientation. Here's your options now. I've got down, perspective mode, sonar setup, installation, orientation, forward. Now you also have to click your transducer and put it in that actual direction, but for the unit itself, that's how you get in perspective mode. So I want to talk a little bit about the Livescope transducer overheating. And that is an issue to be aware of. It's never good for any of your electronics to overheat. If you're gonna, you're 100-degree heat in the summer, if you're gonna jump from spot to spot and run for 5, 10, 15 minutes, you're all right. You can keep your transducer running. But if you're gonna do like I've done on Kentucky Lake and you're gonna idle for 2, 3 hours, it's really not the best thing to let that thing overheat. It's not good for your voltage. It's not good for your power draw. It's just not good on the equipment itself. So, there's two options. One, we put a switch in on mine, so I'm able to kill the switch up front, completely shut off that black box from working. A lot of people think you just pull the transducer out of the water, it's going to quit working, and that's not true. It's going to keep on trying to transmit. So the second option, and this is the option that everybody has, is you go into your menu on your Livescope screen and just hit transmit off. And that's going to shut everything off. It's not going to work. It's going to be frozen, and it's not going to sit there and overheat.